So what's UEFI's role in the booting process? Well, during the boot process, UEFI speaks to the OS loader and acts as the interface between the operating system and the BIOS. Roll over each process for an in-depth look. Hardware are a set of actual physical components that are as a whole typically referred to in the computer industry as the motherboard. Upon the motherboard are physical components comprised of industry-standard electrical components such as PCI and PCI extended slots, SATA connectors, USB connectors, VGA DVI monitor connectors, keyboards, mice, and so on. Other hardware characteristics could be according to how the silicon vendor would lay out components such as memory host controllers, I/O hub controllers, and other various proprietary components. BIOS is the firmware layer that has all knowledge of the underlying hardware and is typically stored in a ROM location that would intercept the processor architecture reset vector. This layer determines both the characteristics of how the hardware layer works and the number of components on the hardware, and makes a list of these resources to be later communicated to the OS. UEFI is the layer responsible for setting up or producing the services and protocols that can be consumed by other software or firmware components. This interface layer provides the basic communication down to the hardware layer, such that other components will communicate through to initialize and start various devices in the system. Examples of other components or devices consuming these protocols are other add-in PCI or PCI extended cards, consoles, USB devices, and so on. The OS loader is a UEFI application that will load the chosen operating system into memory, issue the execboot services event, and invoke the OS. This is the ultimate goal of the boot flow, to boot to a chosen operating system. This application will consume various protocols and services provided by the UEFI interface layer, such that it does not have to depend on the underlying hardware. After control is passed to the OS, only the runtime services will remain as part of the UEFI layer.